order and chaos, progress and breakdown, therapy and still the ache remains. We pour billions into antidepressants, self-help books and mindfulness apps. We've never been more therapized. So why do we feel more lost? We were told that if we just looked inward, healed our childhood wounds, journaled enough, meditated enough, maybe, just maybe, we'd feel whole. But what if the wound isn't just inside you? What if it's around you, in the air, in the stories, in the culture that taught you how to measure your worth by productivity and how to see sadness as a malfunction instead of a message? James Hillman didn't just think therapy missed the mark. He believed it was aiming at the wrong target. According to him, we didn't lose our minds. We lost our imagination. We lost the myths, the symbols, the soul-making that once gave depth to pain and meaning to madness. But here's the kicker. Maybe you're not broken. Maybe you're reacting appropriately to a culture that's forgotten how to feel, how to dream, how to soul. Welcome to Mantis Library. This is where we dive beneath the surface. Let's begin. We've all been there, lying on a therapist's couch, digging through childhood memories, filling prescriptions, doing the inner work. And yet, the world keeps burning. The anxiety won't quit. The loneliness grows. The news cycle churns out fresh horrors daily. As Hillman bluntly put it, we've had 100 years of analysis, and people are getting more sensitive, and the world is getting worse and worse. That should stop us cold. Because what if we've been sold a lie? What if all our self-help and therapy are just putting band-aids on bullet wounds, ignoring who's firing the gun? Here's the uncomfortable truth. Modern therapy became brilliant at making us better adjusted to a profoundly sick society. Think about it. We medicate workers to endure soul-crushing jobs, instead of asking why work destroys souls. We pathologize kids who can't sit still in classrooms that haven't changed since the Industrial Revolution. We call it social anxiety when someone recoils from our isolated, screen-addicted way of life. As Hillman observed, psychology adapts people to the absurd. And the more perfectly adapted we become, the more we lose touch with the sacred rage that should be tearing down these toxic systems. This isn't about throwing out therapy entirely. It's about recognizing how the medical model shrank our problems down to fit onto prescription pads. As Hillman warned, we've been had by the medical model that wants to call everything a disease. Depression isn't just a serotonin deficiency. It might be your psyche's rebellion against a meaningless grind. That panic attack could be your soul's last-ditch effort to wake you up before you spend another decade in a life that doesn't fit. Ancient cultures understood something we've forgotten, that crisis precedes transformation. The Greeks had Dionysius tearing people apart so they could be reborn. Indigenous traditions viewed breakdown as initiation, but modern therapy? We treat every dark night of the soul like a malfunction to be medicated away. Hillman put it perfectly. Pathologizing is the opposite of mythologizing. When we call your midlife crisis adjustment disorder, we rob you of the rebirth trying to happen. When we diagnose children's boredom as ADHD, we silence the prophets trying to tell us our systems are inhuman. This leads us to Hillman's most radical question. What does the soul want? Not your inner child, not your coping mechanisms, your soul. That wild, untamed part that remembers we were meant for more than this. He believed our symptoms weren't just personal baggage, but messages from a world in pain. As Hillman wrote, "The world is sick, and its sickness appears in individuals. We keep trying to heal the individuals while ignoring the sick world, making us ill." This changes everything about how we approach healing. Suddenly, therapy isn't just about fixing yourself to fit neatly into broken systems. It's about listening to what your soul refuses to accept. That depression might be telling you your life needs radical change, not just better coping skills. Those nightmares could be the world's pain speaking through you. Hillman urged us to reanimate the world, to stop seeing ourselves as separate from the crumbling society and dying planet around us. Because real healing doesn't happen in soundproof therapy offices. It happens when we recognize that our personal pain is part of a collective cry for a more beautiful way to live. So where does this leave us? Not abandoning therapy, but demanding better from it. Imagine sessions where instead of just analyzing your mother issues, you're asked, what myths are you living? What gods are calling you? What in this world breaks your heart so deeply it might be your calling? This is the shift Hillman dreamed of, from adjusting to awakening, from diagnosing to myth-making, because the cure for what ails us won't come from better pharmaceuticals, but from recovering the magic, meaning, and connection we've been starved of. As Hillman put it, the soul is not inside us. We are inside the soul. This brings us to an important idea. What if your depression isn't just a malfunction to be fixed, but a sacred initiation? Hillman invites us to see our struggles through an entirely different lens, not as disorders, but as encounters with the gods. He famously said, "The gods have become diseases," meaning those powerful forces that ancient cultures worshipped now appear in our lives as psychological symptoms. That crushing weight of depression, Saturn's call to go deep, the fiery rage you can't explain, Aries knocking at your door, the obsessive love that tears you apart, Aphrodite claiming her due. Suddenly, your mental health issues become conversations with something much larger than yourself. This changes everything about how we approach healing. Instead of asking, "How do I fix this?" we start asking, "What is this trying to show me?" Hillman urged us to recover the archetypal imagination, to see that our lives aren't just personal stories, but part of an ancient mythic drama. He wrote, "We don't have imaginations. Imaginations have us." When you begin to see life this way, therapy stops being about adjusting to society's expectations and starts being about discovering what myth you're meant to live. That career crisis isn't just anxiety, it's Hermes guiding you to a new path. That creative block isn't failure, it's the gestation period before Dionysian inspiration strikes. This leads us to what might be Hillman's most surprising prescription: beauty as medicine. In a world obsessed with fixing and optimizing, he claimed the cure for depression is beauty. Not positive thinking, not cognitive restructuring. Beauty. Why? Because beauty shocks us out of our self-absorption and reconnects us to the anima mundi, the soul of the world. He wrote, "Beauty is the natural cure for the soul's suffering." Think about the last time a sunset stopped you in your tracks, or a piece of music cracked your heart open. In those moments, something shifts. Your personal problems don't disappear, but they find their proper place in a larger, more meaningful context. This is why Hillman believed art galleries might do more for our mental health than pharmacies. They remind us we're part of something magnificent. Practical application of Hillman's ideas doesn't require throwing out yours. Start by simply asking different questions. When anxiety hits, instead of, "How do I make this go away?" try, "What is this anxiety protecting me from seeing?" When depression weighs heavy, ask, "What in my life needs to die so something new can be born?" Keep a dream journal, but read the entries as if they're poems from the world itself. Seek out beauty deliberately, not as distraction, but as soul food. Visit old churches just to sit in their silence. Walk in the woods without headphones. Let yourself be drawn to art that unsettles you. As Hillman advised, stick with the image. Stay with what moves you, haunts you, won't let you go, because that's where the soul is speaking. What makes Hillman's approach so revolutionary is that it turns conventional therapy on its head. Instead of helping you function better in a dysfunctional world, it helps you hear what your soul refuses to accept about that world. The symptoms we try so hard to eliminate become messengers pointing towards what really matters. That chronic fatigue might be your body's rebellion against meaningless busyness. The social anxiety could be your soul's refusal to participate in shallow connections. As Hillman put it, symptoms are the psyche's protest against simplification. They're evidence that part of you still knows your life should be more magical, more meaningful than our stripped-down, materialist world allows. This is where we must talk about the most radical implication of Hillman's work, that real healing makes you less functional by society's standards, not more. Imagine walking into therapy and instead of being asked, "How can we make you more productive?" you're asked, "What in this world breaks your heart so completely that it might be your calling?" Hillman pushed us towards this uncomfortable truth. Therapy should make you dangerous to the status quo. Not dangerous in the violent sense, but dangerous to systems that demand we numb ourselves to keep the machine running. When someone comes in crushed by their corporate job, maybe the solution isn't better coping mechanisms, but helping them hear their soul's rebellion against that life. As Hillman put it, therapy isn't about having a better adjusted ego, but about having a better relationship with your soul. And souls tend to be terrible employees of late capitalism. This approach transforms everyday experiences from problems to portals. That midlife crisis where you suddenly hate your job, your marriage, your entire life, instead of pathologizing it as adjustment disorder, Hillman might say, Dionysius is shaking you awake. The god of ecstasy and destruction arrives precisely when we've become too comfortable in our self-betrayals. That overwhelming grief you feel watching forests burn, that's not just personal depression, it's Gaia speaking through you. Hillman warned that by treating ecological despair as personal pathology, we commit a psychological crime. Hillman's psychology helps us see our symptoms not as dragons to slay, but as princesses trying to wake us up. Practical soul work looks different than traditional therapy. It might involve tarot cards, not as fortune-telling, but as mirrors for your psyche's depths. Poetry becomes medicine, not just art. Daily rituals, lighting a candle, sitting with a tree, keeping a dream journal become ways to stay in conversation with the animate world. Hillman emphasized that ritual is the cure for literalism, that symbolic acts reconnect us to dimensions we've been taught to ignore. Someone working with this approach might spend less time analyzing childhood trauma and more time asking, what myth am I living? What story wants to tell itself through me? As Hillman observed, we don't have to go looking for myths, we're in them. The task becomes recognizing which myth you've been cast in and whether it's one your soul actually agrees to perform. Ecological despair becomes a perfect example of how soul-centered psychology differs. Mainstream approaches might prescribe medication for climate anxiety, teaching people to manage their distress about dying ecosystems. But Hillman would ask, is this anxiety really yours to cure, or is it the planet's pain flowing through you? He believed the world's sickness appears in individuals, meaning our personal suffering often carries collective truths. That knot in your chest when you see another species go extinct isn't just personal neurosis. It's the anima mundi, the world soul, grieving through you. Hillman's approach doesn't try to make this pain go away, but to honor it as sacred witness. In his words, the cure for despair is not hope, but remembrance. Remembering we're not separate from nature, but nature becoming aware of itself. This leads us to the heart of Hillman's vision, psychology as a revolutionary act. Not revolution in the political sense alone, but as a complete reimagining of what it means to be a human in a living world. He wrote, "Psychology without soul is just another way to keep sleepwalking." The therapy we need now doesn't help people adjust to systems that are killing the planet. It helps them hear what their souls already know, that we belong to something much older and wiser than consumer culture. That's why beauty matters so profoundly in this work, not as decoration, but as survival. What emerges from all this isn't an anti-therapy stance, but a call for therapy that serves the soul rather than the status quo. It means sometimes choosing soul over stability, meaning over adjustment, wild truth over comfortable lies. Hillman's final challenge might be this. The real question is not how to heal the individual to fit society, but how to heal society so individuals can thrive. In a world of climate collapse, rising fascism, and spiritual starvation, perhaps the healthiest response is holy rage, creative rebellion, and stubborn devotion to beauty. Not as escape, but as resistance. That's soul work. That's the therapy we've been waiting for. And if you liked this video, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Until next time, stay curious, stay mindful, and never stop exploring. We'll see you again in Mantis Library.